Yes, indeed, folks. We just rolling along right here tonight. For all of you who didn't see the first show, check it out. We're with once again. This is Elrita Dodds. She's got some great books, but this is one of my favorites right here. Is God a Chauvinist? The Bible and Women, a Complete Look. Pretty interesting. Elrita Dodds, where were we? We were just rolling. We were talking about the Atomic Curse. We talked about a little bit about submission. Mm-hmm. So we're going to go from there because I had mentioned at the last show at the end something about oral sex. Right. And I mean, I'm sure that got people like, hey, when is the next show? Yeah. So we're back for it, folks. So we were talking. In one of the paragraphs in your book, it mentions the fact that one of the stumbling blocks within marriage, like I was telling you, a lot of my friends, sex is the big thing. Mm-hmm. Sex, money, religion, child rearing. It said, you cite an example here where, let's say a man desires oral sex. That's something he likes. Mm-hmm. He enjoys it. But his wife looks on it as something dirty and disgusting. It says in your book here that we just got to learn to live with it as men. Is this the way it is? What if the woman like oral sex and the man don't want to do it?
Well, here's the thing. In the Christian faith,
yes,
if you think something is a sin, all right, and we take this from Romans 14.
Okay.
And so if you read Romans 14, 1 through 4, let me read a little bit of it, okay? It's on page 99. Accept him whose faith is weak without passing judgment on disputable matters. Some matters are disputable because as long as you and your wife, your spouse, you're having sex with one another, the wife and her husband and wife, and there's some satisfaction there.
Right.
All right. Certain things are disputable. Now, one man's faith allows him to eat everything, but another man whose faith is weak, only vegetables. This is talking about food and things of that sort. The man who eats everything must not look down on whom it does not, and the man who does not eat everything must not condemn the one who does. Now, it goes on and on, but then in verse 23 of that chapter, it said, 20, start at 20. Don't let your appetite destroy what God has done. All foods are fit to eat, but it is wrong to cause problems for others by what you eat. In other words, some people think that all foods are not fit to eat. All right, so for them, it's a stumbling block. It is best not to eat meat or drink wine or do anything else that causes problems for other followers of the Lord. So if you got somebody who's a vegetarian and they really think it's a sin to eat a hamburger, then don't eat a hamburger in front of them and don't try to force them to, okay, now it goes on.
You can eat what you want to eat. That ain't a big deal to me.
I'm getting to a point here. Verse 22, what you believe about these things should be kept between you and God because it's disputable, right?
Okay.
All right, you are fortunate if your actions don't make you have doubts. But now this is from the CEV. But if you do have doubts about what you eat, you are going against your beliefs. And you know that is wrong because anything you do against your beliefs is sin. So if you have a wife who feels that certain sexual practices, whatever those sexual practices are sin, and he's trying to get her to do them, and she's saying, I feel that this is wrong, then the Bible says that he's wrong. But for her, it's a sin. We just read it. For her, it is a sin.
All right, now here's the catch-22.
So he can't force her to do something that's a sin because...
Here's the catch-22, because, that's why a lot of guys say, you got to try the product out first. Because, I know the Bible say no premarital sex. You're not supposed to have sex before marriage.
Right.
Nah, but let's just be honest. The sexual part is an enormous part of the bed thing.
Yeah.
It's an enormous part of marriage. So you don't know much about the woman. You haven't vetted her. You marry her because, you care about her. She's a nice young lady. She thinks you're a nice young man.
Yeah.
And then you find out she doesn't want to have oral sex. You like that. You've told her you like it. She really didn't tell you either way whether she would do it or not. And then that causes a problem. So now you're stuck with a woman that's supposed to be with for life, which is said for better or worse.
Yeah.
And now you find out it's going to be more worse than better. And now you're in a bad situation because now you're like, hey, how do I get out of this mess? I want a woman who can do all of this stuff.
Well, here's the thing. This is why premarital counseling is so important because, and I talk about this in my book for Christians who are seriously dating or would like to be. And I mention these kind of sexual things, that these things should be talked about because if you have a man who he just can't live without this, and then you have a woman that's like, well, I think it's like a sin. Well, they are not compatible, and really, actually, they should not get married because this is such an issue. So now, if you're married, you're already married, you never talked about it, and so now he wants her to do this, and she's like, I think this is foul and nasty and sinful. The Bible says if she thinks it's a sin, then for her it's a sin. And then he is asking her, therefore, to go against God, because in Acts 5 it says that it's better to obey God rather than man.
Right.
Any man. That means
Okay.
your husband too. You put God first. So if she thinks it's a sin, then for her it's a sin. He needs to quit. Now, the thing about men is that oral sex, anal sex, or whatever, as long as they having sex,
Right.
a man.
Is that the thing?
Let me tell you.
See, Clay, is that all we need?
Well, let's just be honest. A man does not necessarily have to have oral sex to be satisfied
True,
sexually.
true,
Okay.
true.
So what he is, if he's insisting that his wife do this when she said, "I think it's a sin," then he's being very selfish,
Yes.
and he's
Okay.
exploiting
All
the
right.
scriptures,
I'll
saying
give you the
submit,
selfish thing.
and she's saying, "I think this is a sin."
Well, ladies, I just like to
Okay.
say, you guys got a lot of outs. Y'all think y'all got a raw deal.
Right.
But it look like the
That's why I
Bible
wrote
done gave y'all a
That's
lot of
why I wrote
outs
the
here.
book, right?
So-
Because a lot of these things aren't discussed.
Now, I want to go from there because it's a perfect segue. Because I mean, you know, women are like, men are right, and how do I get out of a relationship? Because they want to know, how do they get out? Because we had a discussion at my job, and they were talking about abusive men, and
Okay.
how do we get out of these relationships if we get in and we didn't tell the man we didn't want to do nothing, and we find out the man is angry about it, and now we want out, but we don't want God to be mad at it. Just want out.
Well, that's 1 Corinthians 7. And 1 Corinthians chapter 7 is hardly ever talked about in the church. It's very, very interesting. People don't have Bible studies on it. Gee, I just wonder why. And it's right here.
Okay.
A lot of women think that there is absolute, and I talk about this in my book, you know,
Okay.
in the chapter that talks about abuse. Because, of course, in the Bible, we see that there are only certain ways out of a marriage. Adultery is one of them. If one of them have committed adultery.
Okay.
Also, in 1 Corinthians 7, it says if a person is married to an unbeliever, and the unbeliever decides to leave, all right, then you can let that person go. Now you can't.
But they got to decide to leave.
They have to decide to leave.
What
But
if they
that's
just
an
want
out.
to stick around?
Well, then you got to deal with it, all right? If the person dies, of course, but you can't kill them, all right? So
Can't kill 'em.
You can't murder anybody.
You're
right?
unhappy. You're stuck
That's
with them.
right.
They don't want to leave. That sounds like a raw deal anyway.
So now, and I'm trying to find exactly where it is as far as the out. But basically, if I can't find it quickly, what it says here, they can read 1 Corinthians
Yes,
for
yeah.
themselves.
There you go.
Because I probably just can't find it real quick. But it's 1 Corinthians 7, and basically what Paul is saying here in 1 Corinthians 7 is that if the man should not leave his wife, and the wife should not leave her husband. However, if they do, and what he's saying is, if you leave for reasons other than what you can leave for,
Right.
adultery, what have you.
Right.
If you do, you stay single or reconcile. It's one
Or
or
the
the other.
other.
Now,
Okay.
a lot of women say, well, that's not fair. That means I can't ever get married again, because I got, because you can't, to stay in an abusive relationship, it's like,
Well, we don't want them to do that anyway,
Suicide
right.
by husband, right?
Right.
So that's not good either.
Right.
All right. So you don't want to stay in an abusive relationship. It's better to, be
Right.
alive.
Mentally or physically.
Right, exactly. Why, it's not good. So, and you could die.
Yeah.
And God doesn't want that for you. So a lot of women have to leave. Now,
Men too.
and men too.
I'm here
because
for you
women-
fellas
women-
out
women
there.
are
It's
used-
the Black American relationship reboot. We got to change some things around here.
Well, here's the thing. Paul says, okay, either you stay married. You stay single or you reconcile.
Right.
Now the thing is, of course, you're not going to reconcile. You're not going to reconcile with someone who's abusive, right?
Well,
Because they're
you
beating
shouldn't,
up,
but,
right?
I mean,
Well,
people
unless
have,
they change.
right.
Unless they change, it's hard to change that. But you can stay single. Now, the thing is, Paul talks about how wonderful it is to be single, and this is what is not taught. That he even says that it's better to be single. He says, unless you just cannot restrain yourself from sex, then you have to get married. It's better to get married, aside from rather than to burn. But basically, he's saying it's okay to be single. It's better to be single. And he actually says,
Ladies,
now,
it's
verse
okay to be
36,
single.
now read this. Yeah, but if any man thinks he is behaving improperly toward his virgin, if she is past the flower of youth, and thus it must be, let him do what he wishes. He does not sin, let them marry. Nevertheless, he who stands steadfast in his heart, all right, because he says it's better for the man to be single too.
Right.
Having no necessity,
Mhm.
all right,
Okay, okay.
that's a gift, all right.
Right.
Celibacy is a gift, but has power over his own will.
Mm-hmm.
This is Bible, and has so determined in his heart that he will keep his virgin, does well.
Right.
Now keep
okay.
okay.
That
So-
was before TV.
All right,
And
so-
my man over there give me the
listen,
signal.
wait a minute now. Okay. Okay. So then he who gives her in marriage does well, but he who does not give her in marriage does better.
Mm-hmm.
All right. A wife is bound by law as long as her husband lives, but if her husband dies, she is at liberty to be married to whom she wishes only in the Lord. But she is happier if she remains as she is, as single,
Yes.
according to my judgment. And I think I also have the Spirit of God. That's Paul talking. He's saying,
Okay. That's it, folks.
Well-
Ladies, if you want to get out of that relationship, here the book said it, the Bible said it,
single.
and El Rita Dodge just said it.
Well, I'm just quoting the Bible.
It's hot,
okay
man.
to be
we
single.
hot over here today.
It's
We're
okay.
going to do another one. We're going to talk about women and beauty in the next episode. And I'm telling you, because, you know, the Bible says you got to look good for you, man. But then it says you got to, you know, tone it down. You can't get vain about it. So we're going to talk about that. And once again, love you guys out there showing the support, love. We back on 2015, people. Relationship reboot. C. Clay, take us home. Are women pressured to look good for me?
Oh yes, women we are most definitely pressured to.
But does the
look-
Bible say they got to look good for me?
The Bible says, 1 Peter 3:5. I'll read it. It's on page 232 of my book, ladies. It says, "Your beauty should not come from outward adornment, such as braided hair and the wearing of gold jewelry and fine clothes."